Enjoying the nature out here, roaming through these woods in the green swamp wilderness preserve. Hello everybody, I'm Florida Trailblazer, and it's great to have you along for the adventure. Now, on today's journey, we're walking along this old pathway here towards the Withlacoochee River. Scenic area, very peaceful here. Let's see what we can discover along the way. Out here exploring deep in the wilderness, and there in the 1800s and early 1900s, people had ranches and homesteads all throughout these areas. Just some of the layers of history in this place where we're exploring today. And just behind me here in the woods is the old Stewart Homestead. The Stewart family once lived here in the early 1900s. And they're also buried by the old homestead. So we're going to explore the cemetery here. Tragically, during that time, they were murdered, unfortunately. So tragic events happened here in the past. And to see this place here is a reminder of the history. Let's take a look around. The Stewart Homestead, Mr. and Mrs. Stewart, tragically axe murdered together in their home here by Sally's grandson Joshua Browning and his friend John Tucker. Behind me here is part of the old homestead that still remains out here today after all these years. It's incredible to see it still standing here. A sturdy cabin built by the Stewarts long ago. It's been standing out here for over 100 years now. Now, it's constructed of cypress wood. It's very durable wood. Not too far from this area, there's a large sawmill, so chances are a lot of this wood here would have been processed there, brought into this area when the homestead was built. So I imagine there would have been more to this area at one time, more structures out here. See, there's an area here where it's opened up. Beautiful wilderness out here surrounding this cabin and cemetery. And the Stewarts lived out here, enjoyed this place, made many memories here, that's for sure. And it's tragic what happened to them here. Makes you wonder, why does such a thing have to happen? And they were just out here living their life, and their lives were taken from them in the middle of the night. out here in these woods. Now, from what I've read, their bodies weren't discovered until a week later out here in this area. It was a gruesome scene. And today this cabin here stands as a memorial to them. The cemetery here as well. It's a place of history, beautiful wilderness, peaceful area, despite all that's happened here in the past. May the Stewarts rest in peace. Let's take a look inside the cemetery here. This is where the Stewarts are buried. It's really great to see the cemetery and this historical site preserved today, and hopefully it stays reserved for future generations and for a long time to come. I would like to thank the Florida Trail Association and the Heartland chapter, the folks that come out here, the volunteers who help keep this place preserved for us to discover and learn about. Thank you so much. This is interesting. The tombstone here is carved in. You can see reads "Rest in Peace," and it's interesting because the date here reads 1917. Mr. and Mrs. Stewart. These cattle dipping vats were commonly used there in the early to mid 1900s. You can see around this surrounding area, an old pasture once existed right by the vat here, and cattle would be lowered into this area, down into the vat. Here's an old cattle dipping vat for tick fever, built in 1929. Around the cattle vat here, seeing some dates carved into the cement. I can see this one reads 1929. These cattle vats were commonly used during the early to mid 1900s. And there's a pasture area nearby here where the vat is. And the cattle would be lowered down into this area, often filled with hazardous chemicals such as arsenic, other solutions. And the purpose of this was to get rid of the cattle fever tick